All right, hey guys, I'm gonna do a quick little video here. So we just got down out of the tree. I actually wore spikes in the harness and went up SRT with a rope wrench. I left a line because it took 10,000 throws to get through that crotch up there. So I left the line in here so I can go back up sometime the next couple days and start working on the rest of this. But we chunked off that whole large stem, and that's going to get, the reason I had to climb it and not just take it down from the ground is because it's going to get cut off flush, and there's going to be a deck on top of this, up high, above that old refrigerator unit, about the height of where that is taken off there. It's going to kind of actually look like that. So I just chunked it all the way down. This was the top of it. This was all the chunks. I actually used the G255 near the bottom, and then a top handle Husky. I don't know where that's a top handle Husky up top. What's that one? 436. Oh, 540 XP. But I gotta talk about something, because I got some comments on the trees we took down yesterday. So if you haven't seen my video from yesterday, just look for my post. But we took down this big maple right here yesterday. The maple was leaning over at that holly tree really, really hard, like angled like this. And it was pretty dead. Most of the top had died out of it. The tree's still watered and everything, so it was going to have leaves, but most of the top had died out of it. And I decided to fall it across the lean, which was really the only safe way, because it was really leaning hard and all the weight was on the side of the tree. So I decided to fall it through that opening over there, which I did. And I took a chop off this stump, so you can see where I hacked through it. I was kind of showing how one of the saws ran later in the video, but I got a comment about this stump looking ugly. And this is one of the dangerous parts about this site. Okay, we get a lot of people that are looking for a bargain saw and are new to cutting wood, new to running saws, can't start saws, flooding saws, so on and so forth. A guy said this stump, in one of my comments, this stump looked ugly. Guys, this stump, I'm not a contract faller. I'm a sawyer and a joiner. I mill lumber. I join things together. That's what I do. I'm just getting into climbing. That was my first real high climb. It was over 100 feet up on a real kind of small limb. Actually, this limb right here is almost a twin to it, except that, yeah, pretty much it's about the same size at the base too. So I was up, I don't know if you guys can see, my tie-in point was that little crotch right there. I was higher than my tie-in point cutting it down. I actually had to let slack out of my SRT line to get up to the top to take the branches out of it to come down. But back to the stump. This stump is textbook. Even for people that do this all the time. I cut a Humboldt in it. I didn't leave any Dutchman. If you guys watched the video, it was a 2-cut Humboldt. I bore cut through the middle. I set my hinge on the far side. I cut out. And then I cut my trigger in the back from the safe side, standing back here with a 36-inch bar. I cut my trigger and the tree went over right where I wanted. There's absolutely nothing ugly about this stump. It had good holding wood. I wanted to leave a little bit more holding wood on this side. When I bore cut in, I got a little bit too close to this, but this is, I mean, you can see my hand. There's solid 3 inches of holding wood in this all the way across, which I needed to keep it from smashing into that tree right there or falling on that holly tree. I wanted it to go through there. That's where it went. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. I cut the Humboldt because I wanted the flat side on that log because I have to mill it. That's why I cut it that way. As far as how high this stump is, this is my yard. I could cut this stump any height I want. This one over here, we used to have a hammock hanging between this point right here and that tree. My wife wanted me to leave it high so we could still hang the hammock, and I said, no, I'll make a hammock mount. I don't like cutting over my head. But this is, you can see Sid there. This is just about hip height. You know, to cut this off, it was done completely safely, and there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know where the comments come from, but over to this one. So here's another one that I had to fall yesterday. I called the danger tree. Over 100-foot maple, depending on which way you look across the base, about 40 across the base this way, just a little less than 36 because my saw punched through on the plunge cut. All right, and someone else had said, what was dangerous about that tree? Well, I'm going to climb down here in the woods to show you, because I thought I was pretty clear in the video. The whole inside, here, look at, this is the inside of this tree. This tree's over 100 feet tall, okay? This is the inside of the tree. Right here, I'm busting it through with my foot. That's it. Look how far the fissure goes up in that tree. That top of that was over my head. I tried to cut it below it, because cutting it above it, which would have been textbook, is to go above the rot and try to cut it, because usually the wood's good 4 or 5 feet above that, would have been way up the tree. And this is too big a tree to be doing that. You're not climbing this and taking this down, you know, with a notch and everything. That would be stupid. So I did what I thought was the best. I cut it underneath the rot as much as I could. I tried to get just below where it was showing through the tree. My house is right here. If this tree had come apart when I was cutting it, and that far side, if there was no wood there, I mean, I didn't know when I was cutting it how much wood was there. If it had collapsed, it could have gone right on the house, all right? Or it could have fallen on my truck or the car or smashed through the garden. But again, I did a Humboldt on it. Did a Humboldt on the front to where I thought was down below the rot. I don't know if you can see over here, but this was the bottom of where I could see the rot right here, right here. So I started my notch cut just underneath that. I did the Humboldt. I actually had to bore in and use a wedge to blast the Humboldt out because it was hanging on. I wanted to leave good holding wood, but this tree was all covered with ivy, and when I bored through the tree, I bypassed my notch on the top side. So I'm going to tell you, I made a mistake here. Like I said, I'm not a contract faller, but I bypassed my notch on this side. I came through too far this way. Now, there was holding wood up here that snapped off on the tree. You can see it there, which is right there. There was holding wood there, but I should not have bypassed this notch. I should have come through over here and left, you know, solid hinge wood here, but I didn't. Okay, so I made a mistake. I back cut it out, cut the trigger. Tree went right where I wanted. I wanted it to fall between that little maple and that green post. So that green post right there and that little maple right there, I wanted this tree to go right in between them, and it just nicked that maple, took the top off it on the way down. And when I say it's 100 feet tall, I'll just kind of try to show you how far up in there it goes. But those two comments kind of set me off, and the reason is that these type of comments about saws, about cutting, about this, about that all the time on this site, if the new guys see this stuff, I think that some of the comments are dangerous. And I'm not saying the two guys that picked on, you know, jabbed at me. I knew the one guy, when he said that this stump was ugly, I knew that he was just basically trolling me, because I don't know how the hell you could get a more textbook stump than that. If I had to be critical of myself, this notch probably came back just a hair too far. I could have stopped here and it would have been more textbook. So I probably went, I don't know, inch and a half too far on the notch on the front. But other than that, I mean, that it doesn't get any better than that. Anybody falling wood all the time would be happy with that stump, and happy with falling this across where it was leaning straight here really, really, really hard. And all the branches were on that side of the tree. There was nothing on this side. To get it to go over here was just a win. So, I mean, I'm not looking for, oh, you did the right thing, or screw those guys, or any of that crap. I'm just trying to give you guys some advice. You know, pay attention to people like Brad Jacks. You want to see a guy running Huztl Forma saws that's an expert. That's Brad Jacks, not me. I'm an expert at turning that log into lumber and building shit with it, without fasteners, with draw bores and pegs and mortise and tenon, and using hand planes and bracing bits and Japanese pull saws and doing joinery. That's what I'm an expert at. I'm not an expert at falling, but there's nothing wrong with that friggin' stump. There's my Humboldt notch right there. One cut, two cut notch. That was it right there. There was nothing wrong with this friggin' stump. So when you guys get on and have a couple of beers and I thought maybe the guy, you know, it was a comment from last night and he just had a couple of beers in him, but no, it was this morning, because as soon as I wrote back, he wrote right back. So maybe he was drinking in the morning, maybe he wasn't. I'm not saying go give the guy shit. Don't give the guy shit. If you do give the guy shit, I'm going to delete your comments. So if you go on there and you start talking shit to him, I'll delete your comments. I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking for is I'm looking for people to be smart and not get dead. You can buy a 90 plus cc saw off this site, 100 cc saw off this site. If you've never run a saw before in your life, you know nothing about what you're doing. You have to be careful. When I took that down, full chaps, helmet, ear protection, eye protection, everything. You know, up climbing today, harness, 3 points to tie in most of the time, because I have the double lanyard, so the lanyard was double hooked most of the time. Plus I was hooked SRT up through that crotch the entire time. Wore my cast super plasma. You know, it's as safe as it can possibly be. You know, it's not safe shit to do. I'm up on a limb that looked like that, you know, way up in the thin part, because I'm not good enough at this to feel comfortable taking them way big chunks down here while I'm up there. You know, I have to go way high up and take it down piece by piece and all the way down. I chunked it all the way down and actually ran the G255 too. So hopefully I got some of it on video. I know my wife got some on video, and my friend Tommy was tending the rope for me and cutting some of this stuff up, got some on video. So I'll post it up, but I think the video is important about the comments on that stump. Pay attention to the people that know what they're doing. Please pay attention to Brad Jacks. If you don't know about stumps and you don't know about falling, pay attention, because you're going to get hurt. You know, wear your PPE, do the right thing. It's a real dangerous thing when people can get 3/8 chainsaw chain, full comp, and 100 cc's that have never run saw before, and go out in the backyard in their fucking tennis shoes and shorts to show off how well their blue saw cuts in the, you know, the 12-inch log that they stole from their neighbor. So pay attention and do the right thing and stay safe. Hope you guys have a good night.